What kind of man would you say your husband was? Could you describe him a little bit for me?
He was the love of my life, and he was the most caring, loving, most brilliant person I think I've ever met. He knew how to care for people. I think he lived his life to take care of his family and love all of us. He had a way of, if you were interviewing him right now, he would look at you and you would feel that you were the only person in the world he wanted to talk to. And he knew how to listen. He knew when not to say something. People ask me, what would Duke want you to do? When I thought about it, I know he would say, sweetheart, you do whatever you want to do. But he would be thinking, oh my goodness, I hope she does the right thing. That's what I'm trying to do. Duke's younger son had come after Duke's death to help me go through his belongings, and the first thing he wanted to see was that Navy trunk. I didn't even know it was there. When they were little boys and they moved into this house, his dad put it under the basement steps and said, don't ever open this during my lifetime. He got that trunk and opened it, and all kinds of interesting things were in there. His Navy whites, dress uniforms, and then down at the bottom was this photo album, and he pulled it out and looked at it and he said, what is this? And he showed it to me, and I had the same, what in the world is this? He has a best friend who was his shipmate, and they have stayed best friends all those years. And so I called him and said, Andy, do you remember anything about this photo album? And he said, yes, I do. I remember it as if it were yesterday. It was at Okinawa. Duke found it on the beach. Somehow he brought it back to the ship, but even then he was really upset about it, and he told me that he wanted to return it to the family someday. So when I saw the pictures, it just broke my heart too, and I thought, I know he must have felt that same thing.
Why didn't Duke try and return the album all of those years ago?
I think he had seen so many awful things and had lost some of his men, and I think he wanted just to forget anything and everything about war and move on with his life. The pictures are of somebody's life, somebody's relatives, and I just decided, well then, if that's what he wanted, that's going to be my job now, because that's the last thing I can do for him.
When I first heard about Carolyn's idea of trying to find the family, I thought that was a superb idea. I had no sense that she'd ever figure out how to do that. How are you ever going to connect with somebody that has probably passed away?
I went online and found out what beaches the Allies had invaded and started just trying to piece things together. I'm going to try my hardest, but it's very doubtful that we're going to find these people. It's been too long. They may be dead. They may live somewhere else. So I wasn't very hopeful, but I was pretty determined to try at least. I had taken it to California, and I took it outside because it was moldy and mildewed, and I decided I needed to take the pictures out and clean them off and put them in a new book. And when I was out in that sunshine, I saw written on one of the black pages some Japanese characters that I thought might be a name and address. My guitar teacher is a big supporter, and he understood my frustration about not being able to translate it myself and not being able to know what it means. So he has a Japanese friend who volunteered to help translate. And that's when we found the name and address of the young woman who made the book. That was the first big clue. This is Mitsuko Sanabe right here. And then here she is again. The best thing that happened, the biggest clue, again, my guitar teacher went to have coffee one day.
was just a chance encounter at a coffee shop, and the person I met was Carolyn's guitar teacher.
A young man came in and said, "May I join you? Hi, how are you? I'm on vacation. I used to live in Portland, but now I live in Okinawa."
You know, I like to talk to lots of folks, and he asked me where I was from, and I said Okinawa, and he told me about Carolyn's project.
My guitar teacher said, "Well, I have a friend who's doing a big project about Okinawa," and this young man, Eric Lundberg, said, "I would love to help with that."
I didn't have any big expectations. I didn't even know how I was going to approach it. So my immediate thought was, due to language barriers and just not knowing where to look, to begin looking, was to contact Jorge.
After Eric came back from his summer trip, and then he calls me and he say, "Hey, I need to ask you a favor." And then when I met him and he started explaining the whole adventure to me and started showing me the pictures, is when I started getting a little bit kind of like, okay, all right, let's do this.
And I contact Jorge and his wife Marie. We had them over for dinner. We went through some of the photocopied pictures that Carolyn had given to me.
Yeah, these pictures are in very good shape. We can see the faces. We can recognize many characters.
And we were picking out some little clues. And from those clues and some further research, we were able to kind of pinpoint where we were going to begin the search.
The first big clue was identifying the name of the town, Ire.
They have the Ire letters on the T-shirts from these sport activities that they had many, many years ago.
Across the chest of on the shirts, we saw the town of Ire. So that gave us our first clue or first inkling of where to start our search. And from there, we contacted the city offices. And
when we went to the city hall, I approached one of the employees and mentioned to her about there is this album that seems like it belongs to people from Ire, and I don't know if you can put us in touch with somebody from Ire, and if there is a way to contact people from this little town. And the lady was quite helpful, and she said, "Well, just wait a second."
They contacted the Ire Association, which is a group of folks that at one point lived in the town of Ire. Many of them are, very elderly at this point, but so they contacted them, and Mr. Shimabukuro-san is the individual that responded, and he said, "Well, are they there? And they have the pictures? Then I'll come on down."
Mr. Shimabukuro-san is an elder from the town of Ire. When he looked at the album, he recognized his old friend Tokeshi. Shimabukuro-san took Eric and Jorge to Tokeshi's sister's house. Her name is Awa-san. Awa-san was the first person to see herself in some of the photographs. She also recognized friends. With her help and more assistance from Shimabukuro-san, 3 months later, Eric and Jorge found a Tsunabe family from Ire. They needed to be sure it was the correct Tsunabe family. Next, a meeting was set up with Tsunabe-san. He was thought to be the nephew of Mitsuko, the creator of the album.
Yeah, the first time we met Tsunabe-san, he was quite not too positive about it, and he was very quiet, kind of like a little bit shy.
We're all looking over the pictures, and we're, Mr. Shimabukuro's looking for clues. We're looking for faces that, they might recognize, names in particular, because, the faces change a lot over 70, 80 years. So they were looking primarily at names.
And as we started explaining to him about the album, he pretty much couldn't believe us.
A lot of the other things started to check out. And it was Mr. Shimabukuro that was really kind of pushing, well, take another look at this, take another look.
Once we start getting some numbers like a date of birth matching, is when he started being a little bit more confident about it. But it wasn't until the day that his auntie, Iha-san, totally pinpointed. She went to this picture and she said that she's my sister. Is when Mr. Tsunabe started kind of like stepping into our side. and saying like, yes, this might be the album.
Iho-san is Mitsuko's sister. She was able to find familiar faces in the album.
That was a fun meeting. That was kind of like, that was the big turning point. And that was also the meeting where we finally 100% confirmed that, yes, this is the right family. And we finally located them. Primarily because she had firsthand knowledge. And she knew those faces because she was 15 at the time of, at the time of the battle at any rate. And she remembered the people in the pictures.
Once we found like the album did belong to them, is when Iha-san started telling us her experiences during the war, because she was still a teenager, taking care of Mr. Tsunabe that was only 4 years old.
As soon as we sat down and we opened up the pictures in the envelope, and she started pointing at, Mitsuko, and she said, "That's Mitsuko there, and that's Mitsuko there, and I know that person." And that was that aha moment, I think everybody started kind of got that tingling up the spine.
When Iha-san did the 100% identification of her sister picture, it was pretty much kind of like we won the lottery tickets. It was a lot of joy on the table. Yes.
Well, the next step was to try to arrange the actual passing of the album.
When Eric emailed Carolyn to say they had found the Tsunabe family, she was so happy she cried for a week. When she told Eric about it, he said all of us here were misty-eyed that day too.
This is not a gift from us. We are giving back something that was always theirs. It belongs to them, and it should be here. It should be home. So what it means to me is a great happiness that we can do this, and a sense of closure, knowing that we accomplished what Duke had wanted to do.
To understand better what the Okinawan people had lived through during the war, on their first day in Okinawa, the Widens visited the Peace Museum and other historic sites.
I was like less than a month old when Dad landed on the shore here and started moving inland, and now I realize what kind of a world I actually entered, in some ways. And in the museum here, with the people of this land, the descendants of the people, you don't know exactly how to feel. You want to apologize, or at the same time, it's like, it was just madness. It was complete madness. My dad had just become a father when I was born, when he landed on this beach. And I think the horror he witnessed probably was even enhanced by the fact that he had just become a father. And he witnessed what was happening to a lot of children as well as adults on this island during this war. And I think when he came across, I don't know, but it would seem like when he came across this photo album of family and their friends that was quite large and what was put together over a long period of time, it had to have a sense of humanity about it that he felt he had to save. And so he took it back, and he said, I had always wished there had been a way I could have found the family and returned the album.
On April 1st, 1945, the Allies invaded Okinawa. It became the biggest and bloodiest Pacific Island battle of World War II. By the end of the 82-day campaign, Japan had lost more than 77,000 soldiers. The Allies had suffered more than 65,000 casualties. 149,193 Okinawans were killed or committed suicide. That's more than 1/3 of the total local population.
In the Okinawa invasion, he went in on the third wave of the Marine landing, and he stayed on the beach because his job was to take away the people who'd been wounded and take them back. Duke was, he would go up to a wounded guy on the beach and say, hey, guy, how are you doing? How are you doing? And the first question was always, am I going to die? And Duke would just smile and say, we're going to take you to the best doctors in the world and the prettiest nurses you've ever seen. We're going to take you there right now, so you just hold on. And he would try to make them laugh or try to at least make them feel some hope.
Returning the album to the Tsunabe family, the original owners of the album.
Carolyn has a huge heart and a huge sense of duty, and she puts those two things together and makes stuff happen. And God bless her, I think she may just have pulled something off that is beyond any rational conception. And I'm just hope to hell that these two families understand what a very important and magical thing is about to happen.
The Whiting family and the Tsunabe family meet for the first time. Unfortunately, Mitsuko Tsunabe, who created the photo album, was killed October 10, 1944, during the first Allied bombardment of Okinawa. In January 2014, Mitsuko's sister, nephew, and other Tsunabe family members accepted the return of the photo album in her memory.
Tsunabe desu.
Tsunabe.
Yes.
Carolyn.
Yoroshiku.
Mitsuko no sister.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. Thank you. Today is the end of a spiritual journey, the beginning of a new understanding and friendship. We've come a long way to return a precious collection of memories. We'll go home tomorrow knowing we have completed what my husband Duke wanted to do himself all those years ago.
I am Sherry Wyden. I am Duke's daughter. And so that you might know a little bit of the wonderful man we know, the caretaker of your album, I have made a scrapbook it's an abbreviated version of his life so that you might know a little bit more about him. There are blank pages after the written pages so that you might have translations made. And I would like this, Francis.
My father is speaking through me now to say he is very happy to see you and does not know how to say thank you so deeply. And he wants to return what was yours to you. This would not have been possible if it were not for his wife, Carolyn. It does seem as if something magical is happening that brings us together. On behalf, sir, of our family to you, I return the photo album
Thank you
to
very
you.
much.
Yes, thank you.
Cheers to peace for all countries in the future. はい、皆さん、平和の意味で乾杯。乾杯。
I think it helped me go through the grief process because it's very hard to lose the person you love, and I knew it had to happen, but you're never ready for it. And he and I were both what he used to call doers. We really like to do things. We don't just sit around. And I'm happiest when I have some kind of project to work on. And so this was a big project. And it took me a few months to get it going, but it really helped me to know that I was doing it for him. And it was something he wanted to do. And it gave me a purpose. Of course, you have your memories in your head, I hope. But still, there's nothing like having something you can hold in your hand and remember those people that you love.
With gratitude to the Wyden family, Tsunabe-san built completely by hand a model of a traditional Okinawan fishing boat and presented it as a gift to them from the Tsunabe family.
Caroline,
Drowned.
Mr. Tsunabe,
Island of the Shallow.
he made this is a traditional
Oh,
Okinawan canoe. We call it sabani.
Yes,
And he made it by himself. It's his own work.
Wow.
And he's giving this to you. Hagushitaite.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What does this mean to you?
もう本当に大切な大事なものですよね。これしか残ってないから。
It's very
姉の別に姉の写真一枚はありますけど、こんなたくさんないの。
yes, it
本当にもうありがたく思っているんです。
yes, it must have been some kind of destiny. I feel very
今
grateful
から
that
ね
it's come back.
戦争終わってね、もう時間経ってるさね。これが戻ってくるということはもう全然考えてあるということは。
You know, Carolyn's a fantastic lady, and I see her and Duke kind of as custodians for the book, and I thought what she was doing was just really is beautiful.
When my dad remarried after my mom passed away, I met Carolyn and I thought, wow, this is one bright lady. What I did not understand was the tenacity of the woman and how much when she takes on a project, she sees it through to the end. And I know Carolyn pursued this because of my father. She loved that man intensely and deeply and was by his side through his final days, which were not pretty. And she did it for him and for the love they shared. There might be one little bright spot in a really ugly war.